Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely and I'm here with Luke and Derek, also known as Lurik or
It should,
Duque.
it's
Can
the
we,
Duke. El
how about
Duce.
Duque?
El
El
Duce.
Duque? No, it would be Los Duques.
I Yeah, sure. I don't know. I don't know Spanish.
Oh, well then, in that case, let's call you Los Duques until you Google it.
Okay, deal. I don't want to. I don't want to know.
You don't want to know. How are you guys doing today?
Well, well,
Yeah, it's been hot. It's been nice. We've been able to play disc golf. I mean, you really can't ask for more,
yeah, almost every day now.
except for the wildfires.
Yeah, that's
Are you guys got
our,
fires up now up there?
oh yeah.
We had about an hour and a half north of us. There's an 800-acre wildfire. They got it contained, but also Canada's on fire. So we're getting all the smoke from Canada too.
Canada's on fire.
Yeah.
You know, we were there 2 years ago to do the Boundary Waters, to do a canoe trip up there, and they had to cancel because of the wildfires. So we rescheduled for last year, and then that was the week we got COVID. So,
Oh dang.
yeah, I think God doesn't want us to do the Boundary Waters.
Perhaps not. It could be a very clear sign.
What are the Boundary Waters? I guess I don't even know what that is.
Oh, so there are like 1,000 lakes up in the northern, corner of Minnesota and into
Lando
Canada.
Lakes.
Yeah, but it's such low-lying land that you cannot drive. There's no roads. There's no motorized boats because each of the lakes is separated from the other lakes. But you can portage a canoe anywhere from like 10 feet to like a couple hundred yards from lake to lake. And so you can actually you can canoe from lake to lake to lake to lake and then disappear into the wilderness. And there's like moose bathing in the water, and but it's considered by some people to be the greatest canoe destination in the world. In the U.S., it's one of two for sure.
Hmm. Yeah,
And you guys are in Michigan. Y'all should know about this. It's not
honestly,
that far.
I mean, I know about
Never been to
Michigan stuff,
Canada.
and I don't know about Minnesota stuff. So I don't know.
You know, my favorite all-time place in the entire world, I guess excluding, like Oak Grove Park or some, disc golf destination.
It's
My favorite
Michigan.
place
We
in
know, Scott. It's
Yes,
Michigan.
my favorite place in the entire world is there is a 110-mile stretch of the Green River in Utah. The second half of it goes to Canyonlands National Park, but the first half is identical to Canyonlands National Park. It's just outside of the park boundary, but it's a 110-mile stretch of flat water. There's basically only one way in or out on the entire 110-mile stretch. So you either put it at the top and get out in the middle, or the middle and then get out at the end. And it's like 4 to 5 days for each section. But it's that, like, there's no roads. There's 500-foot canyon walls on both sides of you the vast majority of the time. So there's nobody down there. There's no one camping. There's no one fishing. And there's no motorized boats allowed either. So when you're on the Green River, if you don't see a canoe up on some box canyon, that canyon belongs to you. There will be no other people in that canyon. You go days without seeing anybody else. There's no campgrounds. So, like, there's no signs, nothing. You look for a flat piece of land in a break between the cliff faces
You just
or
post
a
up.
sandbar. And you pull up the canoe and set up a tent for the night. And the next morning you take the tent down and you go another 10 miles down the river. I've done that trip four times. And there's actually, the last time I did, there's like an hour-long video on my YouTube channel explaining how to do it. It's the greatest adventure of my life, and I've done it four times. If or when I come back to the US, I'll probably do it again. It's my favorite place. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like they'll tell you when they put you in the water, because you'll use an outfitter that'll drop you off with the canoe, that'll pick you up 5 days, 6 days later down at the bottom. But they'll tell you when they put you in, if you break your leg, it's like 3 days before you're getting out of the canyon. Like, there is no calling for help. You don't get Wi-Fi signal because of the canyon walls. There's no rescue. Like, it's not dangerous, but it's real. Like,
Right.
if you screw up, Like, here's the joke I always make is like, when you're stepping off a rock 2 feet high, you will step off carefully, because even though jumping off is highly unlikely to end in a broken leg can be fatal.
Right. Yeah.
So you
like,
actually
there's
have
a
to be like,
chance.
you know, 1 in a 50,000 chance of a broken leg. It's a 1 in 50,000 chance of death.
Right.
But it's safe because you can choose not to jump off the rock. Right. No, it's my favorite place in the world. But yeah, go to my
Oh, did we lose him?
YouTube channel. Yeah,
There it is.
It's the coolest place in the world. Oh, you found it?
Oh no, your camera froze on our end for a little bit, but you're back.
Oh,
Good,
did it
we're good.
freeze?
Everything's fine.
Yeah,
Everything's
we're
fine.
out. I'm out in an RV somewhere outside of Berlin in a rest area. I have no idea where I am. I just know that I hear German people outside outside the door of the RV. That's all I know.
Are they banging on the door?
Yeah, I think they're listening to industrial music and
maybe they watched Not Just a Shot.
working themselves up into a frenzy.
Listening to Rammstein.
That's what I was gonna say Rammstein, but then I thought for a split second or was it Rammstein? And then I'm gonna sound stupid if I say it wrong, so I say industrial music. But what I meant was Rammstein.
Well, I mean, you could just be like, "Look, man, I'm American. It's Rammstein. I'm from. Say you're from Wisconsin. I'm listening to Rammstein."
And Rammstein. Oh, you betcha.
Actually, speaking of Wisconsin, Portland Open happened over the weekend, and Wisconsin boy Adam Hammes took down the win.
Yeah, buddy, dude, he showed up over the weekend. He played lights out.
Yeah, he's up north by Lac de Flambeau, right?
Sure, I don't know Wisconsin. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. You're from Michigan, right?
Then yeah,
you know Wisconsin.
I know right across the Lake Michigan ferry. That's about it. But to be fair, during his interview afterwards, his accent really came out, and I've never heard his Wisconsin accent before.
Yo, I heard the same thing.
And I was like, bro, he's
wait a minute.
He's from Wisconsin.
Has he been just in Wisconsin this whole time, and that's why all of a sudden he sounds like that again?
I wish we could pull it up. It was thick.
No, I think he's from. I believe he's from the Lac de Flambeau area, up north.
Yeah,
north, really far north Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's basically Canadian.
Yeah,
he's basically Canadian.
It was. I mean, his accent. I was like, I knew it was Wisconsin, but like, it was heavy.
He's like a Canadian without the good health care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, he has to worry about broken legs.
Oh my God, you can't afford a broken leg as an American on tour.
No,
that is outside of our price
range. Healthcare benefits.
Oh my God, like you would not believe. I mean, when you tell people about, and I'm not like crapping on the U.S. healthcare. I'm just
you can't.
I tell people in other countries just what it's like, just honestly, and they just are like,
yeah,
they can't believe it.
Day job is in healthcare or insurance specifically, actually. So I know very much.
Yeah. Oh, I got my best friend Randy. He has diabetes, and he would love. I believe, I don't want to get him in trouble, but I believe he would like to retire at some point, and he can't. And he has like a really good job, but it has insurance. But because he has diabetes, his insurance is going to cost him $6,000 a month.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So he's going to have to pay $72,000 a year for his insurance, and then still pay deductibles and copays.
Yeah, you have to be a millionaire with diabetes. That's it.
But this is insulin. This is like insulin. I'm pretty sure we could like whip up insulin in a bathtub for like 10 cents a liter. Like if we actually bought the materials. I mean, I can't
side hustle.
It's supposed to. Oh.
Delete that. Erase that. We don't want that on. We don't want that going out.
What? We're going to be manufacturing insulin out in the desert from an RV? Yeah.
Yeah, for real Breaking Bad, but instead of crystal meth, it's insulin.
Knock, knock. Hello, federal government.
So I was actually speaking to my sponsor. I got a couple new sponsors. It's Ala Disc Golf Center and Smell Well. foot deodorizer. They're the ones that actually got this RV for us for the summer.
nice.
So we're traveling. We got an RV all summer provided by Smellwell and All in Disc Golf Center. But I was talking to we were at their house, and we were talking to his wife. And when I mentioned that Americans often only have a week or 2 weeks vacation a year, like her jaw hit the floor. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you live life when you only have a week or two off? And I'm like, that's normal.
The American dream.
Yeah.
That's normal here to have like a 1 or 2 weeks off. Here's the deal. If you have 2 weeks off, 1 week is your spouse is going to take you to a stupid wedding once a year with someone they haven't even talked to in like 15 years.
Yep.
So, by the way, that sounded so sexist. Your male spouse could also take you to a wedding.
Significant other.
Okay, so I wasn't. So if you assumed I meant one gender, shame on you for being sexist in your judgment.
That's your
I'm
fault.
saying that I don't care. Like every single person I know spends like 1 week a year because their partner, either gender,
nailed it,
drags them off to a wedding to someone that they haven't even seen. Like, oh, my second cousin's getting married.
Right.
So we're gonna use one of our weeks vacation to go. Like, why would you want to spend vacation with your family? That's like, that doesn't sound like a vacation. So, yeah, but if you had 4 or 5 or 6 weeks off, then, you can suck it up for 1 week. But
yeah, because then
she couldn't believe it. She's like, what do you mean you only have one or 2 weeks vacation? She's like, is that legal? And she's like, by law in Sweden, you have to provide, I think, 4 or 5 weeks minimum. Yeah. That's the law.
Right.
So
I'd be okay with it if the wedding was on like a beach somewhere. I can be like, it'll double it. I'll make an appearance, but I'll be on the beach most of the time.
It's like I'm moving to Sweden.
I don't know. It's maybe because I'm just a guy. I've been to 2 weddings, and that's plenty.
I've been to so many. All my friends seem to get married around the same time, so I had to go to a bunch of them at once, to the point where I was just Amazon wardrobing my outfit and then sending it back right afterwards because I was sick of spending the money.
By the way, of all the friends whose weddings you went to, how many are still married?
All of them.
Oh, these must have been recent weddings.
Yeah, they were like Gillette past couple years.
Okay, there you go. See, I knew that without asking. That was not a question. That was an assumption.
Yeah, it's no like, they've been together 20 years. It's like they're still in the honeymoon phase.
Fun fact about weddings is today is my 2nd year wedding anniversary.
Hey, and here you are right doing this.
2 down, 2 to go.
You're halfway there.
Yeah. What? like we said a couple weeks ago, threats and dishonesty.
Yes.
Threats, dishonesty, disingenuous compliments, pretending to compromise when you're not.
Yeah. These are the keys. These are Scott Stokely's 5 keys to a successful marriage.
I saw
going in his next book.
This is what's so bizarre. Hey, do you want me to get off on a? Oh no, I probably shouldn't do.
No, you should.
You want to hear me get off on a marriage rant?
I sure do.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm gonna piss off. I can't not say it now. Okay, so one of the funniest things I've ever heard is when people say, 50% of marriages fail, and it's like, that's a very inaccurate stat. Like 50% of marriages end in divorce, but of the 50% that don't get divorced, there's a percentage of those that's abusive. Mm-hmm. By the way, both ways. If emotional, physical, it can go both ways, especially the emotional. It's like, so those are failed marriages. Then you have the marriages that are just toxic. They're not abusive, but the 2 people don't get along, but they're together. So those are also failed marriages. Just because they're married doesn't mean it's a success. Because then you have the couples that are they're together because, there's no real passion. They don't really have much in common anymore, but it's not bad enough to break up. And maybe they got kids or something like that, but it's just
right.
So they both got separate lives, but there's nothing there. Like, that's pretty much a failed marriage.
Yeah, I agree.
And then what you're left with is you have, I think, two groups of marriages. You got one, which is the people that do get along. They're friends. It's not passionate anymore. It's not, but but they get along. They got a good relationship. I wouldn't call that a failed marriage, but I wouldn't call that successful, because now you're just treading water, not enjoying it. And then you have a small percentage that are in bliss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the percentage is low. And the when I really started thinking about this was, I was at one of the two weddings I've been to, and they did this thing. They go, everybody who's been married for 10 years or more, stand up. And everybody, like half people, stand up. 20 years or more, everyone will sit down, and people sit down. And they keep counting down until they found the couple that had been married for like 60 years. And then everybody gives them this round of applause and cheering, and like they're throwing their hats in the air for this couple that's been married 60 years. I knew the couple, and they're freaking miserable. They can't, like, there's nothing about that relationship that is like, but everybody's cheering because they're together. And I'm like, you guys are out of your minds. Why are you cheering for that?
The guy just hadn't had enough drinks to be like, shut up, don't cheer me.
Shut up, I hate her.
But if you're listening and you're married happily, I'm happy for you. I'm not anti-marriage. It's just, I just don't think it's the be all end all for everybody. It's
not.
It's for some people, but it ain't for everybody.
I can't wait for the the audience go into the YouTube channel to look for Scott Stokely talking about disc golf, and the clip is Scott Stokely on marriage. 1,000 views.
Hey, here's my marriage advice to everybody. I'm going to give you the best marriage advice ever. The first or two years, because 2 years, the first 2 years of marriage are amazing. And then after that, even if it doesn't go bad, it certainly kind of plateaus and levels off. The best thing you can do, if you're definitely committed to getting married, get married for 2 years, get divorced, marry someone the next day for 2 years, get divorced. And at the end of 50 years, you will have 25 marriages, which some people would call a failure, but you will have 50 years of the honeymoon phase.
Right.
So my advice to you.
So much alimony.
Ooh, well, that's a good point.
Oh, shoot.
25 marriages, man. That's a lot of cash you're paying out to those 25 ex-wives.
What?
I said
20 prenups. All you need is one lawyer, one prenup, 24 copies, because that's 6 cents a copy at Kinko's.
You basically just have a stamp now that you're just stamping your signature on. Yeah, I agree to that too.
For the next one about a year into the current one.
Actually, you could actually sign your name on the first one and then just photocopy the next 24. Your signature won't change.
You don't even have to say. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you start having robocalls.
Save that carpal tunnel.
We're trying to get a hold of you to re-up your prenuptial agreement.
Yeah, by the way, this is why, like, don't come to my marriage advice channel. I'm terrible at it.
Oh, no, that's gonna be on your TikTok.
on my
all marriage advice. MySpace.
All right, disc golf.
How about all right, for sure, disc golf now.
If anybody's still listening.
Shoot. So, how much of the Portland Open were you able to catch? I know you're busy and traveling.
I was actually busy this weekend. I was running clinics and doing some work at the Ala disc golf center in Sweden, and so I did not get to catch much of it. I know Adam beat Aaron in sudden death.
Yep.
God, Aaron's such a cool kid. Well, Adam's a cool kid. They're both cool kids. But I'm kind of pulling for Aaron now. I'm kind of like,
yeah,
I want him to kind of like.
You don't want him to be forever the bridesmaid.
Get the monkey off the back. Because he's good. I mean, he's he was a throwaway from being considered the best in the world. Like I would love for him to get over it, and he will. He's so talented. There's no question. I'm not worried about him.
He's got a great nickname.
Maybe he should reach out to you to fix the putt a little
bit. Wait, his nickname?
Goose.
The Goose.
Oh, I knew that. Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron the Goose Gossage.
It's great because like if he'll make a big putt and the entire crowd's going Goose.
Yeah,
it's great. It's a great nickname.
He's just an example of how many people out there can win on a given weekend. Like, no one's surprised. Like, it's like nobody's like, no one was like, I can't believe Aaron Gossage went to sudden death. Like,
Right.
you know, like he's good enough where you're not surprised, that's for sure. But there's like 40 people that you're not really surprised if they win.
Yeah, it's no longer how it used to be, where it's like, okay, well, there's these 3 guys that are gonna be number 1 or at least top 3 every time, and then everyone else is fighting for cash. Like, anybody probably within the top 25 DGPT points or UDisc World Rankings or whatever you choose to follow disc golf with legitimately has a chance to win any given weekend. And it kind of sucks when we're making our picks. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who to pick.
What did surprise me though was his choice of approach on hole 1 during the playoff. All 4 rounds, he threw the exact same shot on, or the 2 rounds, because they only played the course twice.
Mhm.
Both rounds on that course, forehand off the tee, forehand approach, birdie putt. Happened 2 other times exactly that way. He forehands off the tee, exactly how he did the first 2 other times, but chooses to throw the backhand approach instead of the forehand approach to the green. He was exactly where he was the 2 other times that he threw forehand and birdied. The fact that he chose to approach backhand, and you could even tell, like, the commentators were starting to get worried because he seemed a little unsure of what he wanted to do, to the point where, like, Philo and Ian Anderson were talking about, like, oh, well, he needs to start paying attention to what he's doing, because that 30 seconds is coming close, because he seemed really unsure of whether or not he wanted to throw the forehand like he had done the 2 other times or go backhand. And he ended up going backhand. It wasn't a bad approach. He still had a putt for birdie, but a substantially further putt than he did the 2 other times that he threw the forehand approach. So it surprised me a lot as far as the decision to go completely separate for the playoff.
So it's a surprise, but I think, I mean, okay, hindsight's 2020. We all know this.
For sure.
But I think that's a credit to him. Like, that is a really, really high level skill of being able to change your throw from one round to the next. Because when you step up to any hole or any shot, well, if it's in the fairway, it's not identical. But even if it was, conditions aren't identical. The situation's not identical. And he must have had a reason to switch. Maybe it was the wind, maybe it was something. He had a reason, but the willingness to do that and not just stick to what has worked before because there was a change, I think I think that's a really high level skill. I mean, if you're right-handed and you stepped up to a 350-foot wide open hole and you had a left to right wind, the first 3 rounds of a 4-round tournament, you're throwing a backhand. For sure, backhand hyzer. On the 4th round, if the wind's blowing right to left, it doesn't matter if you parked it the first 3 rounds. You're switching to a sidearm, or at least you should.
Right.
Because you want to show the top of the disc to win. It's just, it creates a smaller margin for error. So you have to be willing to do that. And when I teach my online class in the section on wind play, that's one of the things I even talk about, is that you cannot be wired to your shot, because the wind will, you have to be willing to change the shot. Now, I don't know his reasoning, but I'm sure he had a reason because of his previous success. He had to have.
Yeah, I could say that wind definitely played a factor, because even, Philo and Ian weren't obviously on the course, but according to Terry, wind had definitely picked up substantially from even just that round that same day. So there was some different conditions involved there. So it just surprised me a little bit, because I think that, and granted, that the commentators, being as great as they are, they're going to play into that drama a little bit. They're going to juice that up and be like, wow, Philo, I'm surprised he didn't throw the forehand, and they're going to buy into that story a little bit, but it definitely,
why didn't he throw the forehand?
Well, I had watched all the rounds. Had I not watched all the rounds, probably I would be less intrigued and be like, yeah, why why do that actually?
Yeah.
But because I watched the 2 other rounds where he threw forehand off the tee, forehand approach, birdie putt.
Yeah, if you throw the bond with the disc to wind, like you're just playing a guessing game. It becomes so unpredictable. And even if you were an expert at that wind, you don't know what the wind's doing down the fairway either. You're also guessing on that.
Yeah.
And you just have to put all those things into play. I always think, and this is just me, maybe this is why I wouldn't be a good commentator. Well, there's 2 reasons I wouldn't be a good commentator. Number one, because I'd be talking about marriage in the middle when everybody's there to hear disc golf. But the other reason is that I don't have that part of me that would second guess the player,
Right.
Because I trust their judgment. That they're here for a reason. It's really hard to say, well, I don't think Gannon should have run that putt. Like, really, Scott? Like, I'm in the booth. He's the one out there in that position. And that doesn't mean players make perfect decisions. And I'm not talking about hindsight. I'm just saying I always think the player's making the right decision for them, like they know what they're doing. As a commentator, even if you agree with that statement, that's not interesting commentary. I mean, it's a talking point. You got to bring it up. But
Right,
I would have a hard time. I would be so boring. It's like, no, he's doing it for a reason. I mean, I think maybe if I was there, I could explain why he's doing it. Like if I was there, I almost 100% certainty I could tell you why he made that choice. I just would have to be standing next to him to understand.
Right. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, he's a power forehand player. You're on a playoff for not only an Elite Series event, but your first Elite Series win. He could have very well juiced it. Just not. I mean, look at Corey Ellis at MVP last year.
Yeah.
He's a good forehand player, and then he juices it trying to get onto the green. Maybe he just thought, like, I don't want to do that. I have a little bit more control in my backhand right now. Maybe I'm just gonna. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to the guy, so I don't know what he's thinking. But I mean, just as a spectator, you're just like, man, his forehand's so good. Why wouldn't he not? And it's always like, well, why didn't he do this? Or he could have done that better. Maybe if he made that putt on 16, it's golf. You're always going to be like, man, I could have done something different. And you kind of translate that over to whatever player you're watching and rooting for. So, I mean, he's putting himself in the position a lot lately.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time until that position's just going to be number one. And and by then it's going to be, the goose is going to be loose.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then an SPO.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say? She dominated. She goes wire to wire.
Won her 5th of 8 starts this year.
Yeah.
Which is 3 more than where she was last year at this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's her world right now.
Yeah, and we're just all living in it.
Hey, shout out to Owen Scoggins because she shot the course record on the final day. 10 strokes down.
Yeah. Shout out to Juliana Korver, too, who just won an FP50 and then gets 3rd in an FPO event.
Yeah.
Elite Series.
Got her tour card punch for next year.
Heck yeah.
Did she? Oh, okay.
That's insane.
Yeah. She shot a 982 tournament.
Yeah, that's, I mean, for an FP50 player, that's amazing.
Yeah, she said in her interview after day 2, going into day 3 on the lead card, she was like, hey, if you want my honest opinion going into this weekend, if you would have asked me if I had the skill level to be competing in this event, let alone making a lead feature card on the final day of an event like this, I would have told you no. So the fact that I'm even here to begin with is just humbling and lets me know that like I'm exactly where I should have been the entire time. And but yeah, her being tied for 3rd earns her pro tour or her
tour card for
next year. So she's locked in, and we're going to see another season of some JK out there.
Yeah, that's great. She would be in anyways. I mean, that's
let's be honest.
She's in there until she chooses not to.
Yep. They were kind of talking about that a little bit as far as insider knowledge, but not insider knowledge because it was being talked about by commentators on the Pro Tour, of course. But,
right.
She's definitely talked and kind of mentioned a few things to some really close friends and stuff within the disc golf world that even when she's done playing, she has no intention of stepping away from the game. She's here to stay, and whether that's be commentating or just getting more involved with the pro tour from a admin type of level, she's definitely all interested in that, which is super good to hear. The sport is in good hands with somebody like Juliana Korver for sure.
Yeah, I love Juliana. She's been one of my best friends in the sport forever. I was there. Actually, I'll tell you when I met her. I met her at the 1993 PDGA World Championships, except she wasn't a player. She was the girlfriend of a player on my card.
Oh, I've heard her origin story. So I think, yeah, it's like she was in college or something dating this guy who was into disc golf. So I think that was probably the guy on your card.
He was on my card. That's where I met her. Same tournament I met a kid named Barry Schultz.
Who? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. And this is, I was already old at this point. This is 1993 was 11 years after I won my first tournament. Which is when Barry Schultz
year I was
Juliana
born
just came out. So I had won a tournament 11 years before Barry Schultz and Juliana's first world championship.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you want to feel old, I was only 3 years old in 1993.
I was being birthed in 1993.
Yeah, I was 61 years old in 1993.
Well, oh man. Well, when we go from a highlight with JK to a low light, something also happened this past weekend is the official cash streak of one Mr. Nate Sexton has come to an end after 12 years, was it? 15 years.
Over 250 consecutive events of hitting the cash line. And Mr. Nate Sexton, as of Saturday, missed the cut and missed cash for the first time in 15 years.
In Portland, of all places, too.
Yeah.
He made the comment after the fact on that day and kind of said something along the lines of, quote, "I think they finally did it. I think they finally started creating courses and layouts that are finally going to do me in," unquote. Kind of leaning more into the fact that he, with the longer and the more juiced up these courses are starting to get, it's harder for him to kind of maintain that level of play that he's maintained for the last 15 years. I have some arguments to that because I'm talking to somebody that threw the best forehand shot that I've ever seen in my life. And age does not seem to be a factor for Mr. Scott Stokely. So that being said, but I think everybody plays the game differently. And at least from his information and when that happened, he definitely contributed a little bit to just not being able to play the course to the same ability as some of the other players that were out there.
I will have one counterpoint to that. So it's not necessarily about age. I mean, obviously from Scott you've always been a distance thrower.
Yeah, different style of disc golf. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Nate Sexton's never been a distance thrower.
No, I've lost a ton of distance because I'm 53 years old.
Right.
But I started off so far ahead of everybody that a ton of distances, I still throw 550.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think Sexton could probably push 550 if he really got behind it, but he doesn't throw 550, you know?
No, 550 is a truck.
Yeah. And Sexton's always been called Nate Safeton because he uses different strategies on the course to, he plays the course.
And
he's like, I got placement shots. Yeah.
He's also talking about a specific course and after losing a streak and all that. I mean, not every course is Portland or OTB.
Right.
That's accurate for sure.
You know, and so
I think he would have cleaned up at Cascade if he had played that.
I mean, it's just tying into kind of what we're hearing from Paul Macbeth and Simon Lazat and all of these. I'm not going to say old because that's not even the term, but just different style or slightly different era of where they grew up playing disc golf. Like Paul Macbeth and Simon Lazat, that era of disc golf was woods golf. It was shot shaping golf. It was, you know, navigating tight line fairways full of trees type disc golf.
Unless you're talking about like Fountain Hills.
Yeah. And
Let's be
then
honest.
You get, you know, like an Anthony Barella or even Mr. Carter Aarons, who we saw kind of even blow up a little bit more at Portland over the weekend. He's 15 years old and can go out there and
you can chuck him.
Holy
crap.
Like 600, 650 easy, no problem at 15. You can just tell, and like, you know, the previous era, I'm trying to word this correctly.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you said, you worded it correctly the last time, Scott. It's not the torch has not been passed. You know, we're in the passing of torches, you know, in that moment, actively, not past that moment. But we're seeing that slight difference of the 30-plus-year-old pro being like, hey, you know, like I do kind of miss this element of the game, this shot shaping, you know, being more precise with my shots and not necessarily, you know, when I throw a shot, I want to throw a shot exactly how I want it and know that I have to put it 320 feet on hyzer to get it to where it needs to go, not let me just throw a frisbee through the air as hard as I possibly can.
Well, I mean, honestly, though, most of the long courses don't let you throw full speed.
Yeah.
They're really not. I mean,
unless you're talking about like country club
everybody on
one.
tour, everybody on tour throws far enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, do you consider Adam Hammis or Aaron Gossage to be like the top end power players?
Aaron can bomb.
Aaron Gossage, I would consider to be a top end forehand power player because he throws
even backhand. He can bomb.
Yeah,
he bombs. But I mean, does he stand out though? He's not AB.
No, he's not AB.
No,
and he's not a double G. He's not
right.
Double G is like kind of that unicorn slightly, where he's like he's technically part of that 30-plus-year-old disc golfer era, but still can go out there and throw it as far as.
Yeah, I still don't think it makes too much of a difference. I mean, rarely does Anthony Barella step up to a shot where he has an advantage over other players on the hole because of his power. Now, if you have power and the option of throwing farther than other players, there are situations where you have an advantage, but it's not 9 or 12 times around. Maybe it's once or twice around.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it's 1 or 2 long holes and then 1 hole where you can throw the big hyzer shot where that gives you an option. Okay. So so then there's a few opportunities there, but that's an advantage, but that's not this major, massive advantage. It's an advantage, but so is, you know, being 24% circle 2 instead of 19%.
Right.
That's still, you know, because here's the thing about having the powers. Just because you have the advantage, okay, I'll make this up, but let's say I have a 600-foot hole without any real OB on it. And Nate Sexton throws 500 feet, and Anthony Barella can throw 600 feet. Anthony Barella has an advantage on that hole. For sure.
Yeah.
But how many times out of 10 does Anthony Barella birdie that hole? One time out of 10, and Nate Sexton birdies at 0 out of 10. So the advantage is 1/10 of a stroke per round because of the power. It's an advantage. It's not a massive one. Not on the courses with all the OB. If you took the OB off the courses, then yeah, that would change everything. But with the OB the way it is,
do you think distance as far as on like a par 5, a guy where someone can break it down in 2 shots instead of 3 or 4 would have an advantage on a par 5?
I mean, depending on where the OB is, yes.
Right, well, yeah. As long as they can control it.
And there should be an advantage. Every skill should be rewarded. You know, one of the things that I thought was it seemed very unfair that when back in the 90s when I threw a backhand 100 feet farther than anyone else on tour, I threw sidearms 200 feet farther than anyone else on tour, and I would hear occasionally someone complain if there was a hole that I could reach and nobody else could. Well, that's not fair. And I'm thinking, well, that's a bunch of crap. Like, why shouldn't I have an advantage on some shots? I've developed a skill better than my competitors. Should I never be rewarded for that? Should it be, oh, well, let's just take that away? That reminds me of like that the gymnast who could do moves and no one else could, so they just made those moves against the rules.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Simone Biles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second.
You're like, get good. Like, I don't know.
So you should be rewarded for it. But it not 12 times around. You know, maybe. So yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with there being a reward, but it's just one of many skill sets in the game. And nobody has the best sidearm, the longest sidearm, the longest backhand, the best roller, the best finesse shot, the best circle two, the best circle one,
right,
along with the best mental game and the best grenade. Like
they would be Calvin Heimberg, but as an actual cyborg.
Yeah. So you know, I don't believe that Nate Sexton's power is not good enough to compete. I think he's at a disadvantage on longer courses. Mm-hmm. I think that James Conrad's at a disadvantage on a course that favors Anheuser shots because of Nate's sidearm.
Right.
So I think Nate's being too hard on himself. Nate's got some time left.
Tell him to come on the show and we can talk about it.
I love Nate too.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to Nate.
Hey, you want to hear a funny story about Nate?
I would love to hear a funny story.
So, because I quit in 2001, came back in 2014, and in 2014, I was at the Crucible course in Athens, Georgia, and Nate Sexton walks up to me, and he says, "Scott Stokely," because I had just come back after 13 years. Mm-hmm. He says, "I've been waiting 13 years to shake your hand." And I went, "Oh, that's really sweet of you." And he says, "No, I'll explain." And I'm going to just use Nate's words. Nate says, "I lived in Corvallis, Oregon. I was 15 years old. I had been playing disc golf 2 weeks. I looked up at the board at my course, and there was a poster of you that said you were coming to town to do a clinic. I came to your clinic. I was brand new. I didn't even know anybody. I sat in the front row. You taught me the X step and you taught me the sidearm. And I've been waiting 13 years to thank you."
Heck yeah.
How cool is that?
That just really emphasizes the camaraderie of this awesome sport, I think.
Well, and Nate's just about the best. I mean,
sidearm player, yeah.
Well, one of the best sidearm players, and not just one of the best genuinely good guys out there too. I mean, it's like nobody doesn't like Nate. He's the best. I love that guy.
Dadded by Nate in the middle of a practice round like Big Germ. That was funny, but
what happened?
There was a practice round, like a Jomez practice round episode, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was an
OTB
GK
Skins match, and Nate Sexton and Jeremy Coling were on the same card with each other, and Jeremy Coling's getting ready to throw his shot, and Big Germ, we all love Big Germ, but he likes to talk. He likes to over-explain things quite a bit. And he was trying to explain and go super detailed into what type of shot he was going to take and if he should take this line or if he should take that line. And in the middle of him outwardly thinking out loud, you just hear Nate Sexton from the background just be like, "Come on, dude. They have to edit this stuff. Do you realize that somebody's going to have to sit after this is done and sit for 2 hours and edit all of this out so they can just get exactly what they want. Just throw your shot and let's get it over with." Big Germ throws the shot. It's a pretty decent forehand, but just duffs the putt right into the lower part of the cage, and it's just dead awkward silence for the remainder of the GK.
Yeah,
it's just weird awkward silence between Nate Sexton and Jeremy Coling. But that's why we love them. They have great chemistry together, which is always nice. But getting dadded by Nate Sexton is not something I have any interest in ever being a part of.
No.
Speaking of just player play specifically, sliding slightly over, there were a couple comments made over the weekend about continuity of the equipment that the Pro Tour is using.
I was going to bring this up too.
that being said, there was one comment, and we'll pull this up here really quick so you can actually read it. Drew Gibson actually said, hey, Disc Golf Pro Tour, what do you think about creating a DGPT basket or actually making sure the approved targets catch at a rate that is satisfactory for professional play? Kind of followed up by, I'm asking for the betterment of the game. I only had one spit out this week, so I'm not salt posting. Gossage putt on 16 proves my point. Get these off the course. I would love to know your outlook and perspective on this, because it's definitely something that's regularly talked about on tour. There is a massive inconsistency with the course equipment that's being used amongst different courses in the United States. And it's definitely becoming a problem for our like athletes in general, because we're seeing like
I know I have opinion on this.
Gossage on 16. I personally have played on 3 or 4 different types of basket. I think everybody that plays this game enough has like a favorite, I guess, if you'd call it that. But like, what are your thoughts on like the Disc Golf Pro Tour? Like, my question is like, what are your thoughts on the Disc Golf Pro Tour specifically designing their own approved target to use only for Disc Golf Pro Tour events, so it is completely standardized?
I've got a couple very strong opinions on that. Shocking. So first off,
I pulled the
I have heard many people say, why can't the Disc Golf Pro Tour just make a basket that catches better? And the answer to that question is a bunch of really, really smart people who love this game, who are engineers, they're like, everyone's trying to design the basket that catches the best. And what we have is these baskets that exist now. That is the best we've come to. So the idea that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is just going to make the basket that's better than everyone else's, that no one else made, that doesn't make any sense. So that doesn't mean there can't be improvements, but just to say that they can just opt to improve the baskets would almost imply that everyone else made them inefficient on purpose. Like, everyone's trying to make the baskets the best. I think one of the big problems you're going to have with that is if you are Innova champion and you put X tens of thousands of dollars into sponsoring a tournament, like, I would sure want my baskets on there. And I think so would Prodigy, and I think so would Dynamic, and I think so would everyone else. Yeah, so I don't know if that is part of the consideration. I think there's a couple baskets, a couple of them, and I'm not going to name names because this is subjective, because my opinion can be just as flawed as anybody else's. But there are 2 baskets that I do think catch not quite as well as the others. I think all the others catch equally well, which is they catch just about everything out there. And it's unfortunate when you get a bad break. It's unfortunate when you hit a tree and you kick out of bounds. It's unfortunate when, bad breaks are unfortunate. It's unfortunate when you're putting to the target and then the wind gusts and it drops your disc 6 inches and it misses, even though out of your hand you're like, that was perfect.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you should ever accept the luck factor, but I mean, that's part of the game. Like, you can't engineer against that. I think, I'm not an engineer, but I think there's a point where if you have less chains, discs cut through, and when you add more chains that to reduce the cut throughs, then you have another result of discs kicking out. And I don't think there is a magical space in there that every single basket will catch perfectly. I think
there's a human variable there too, that's one part of why I love this game is because, like, a putt, for me, a putt matters how hard I throw it just as much as where I throw it to.
Yeah, I mean,
so, like, if you're soft arming the putt in, you're probably going to get spit outs.
Well, and I would even go a step farther and say, like, I mean, first off, I will tell everyone who allows me to teach them how to disc golf, do not ever think about the type of basket when you're putting. The idea that, on these baskets, you need to hit high right. Shut up. No, you don't. You need to aim for the middle. That period. Okay, so you aim for the middle no matter what, and if it stays or it goes and it bounces out. Having said that, if the baskets were even more different, and if some of them did need to hit high right, and there's other ones where you needed to putt softer than harder, and it was a measurable difference between those, I would not want it standardized. Why standardize it? Why not?
Exactly.
I mean, again, this is in a make-believe world where the baskets really do vary from basket to basket, and you really should putt differently. Why not say, wow, at Portland, you really got to putt soft. And then at DDO, you have to putt really soft at DDO, but it's windy at DDO, which makes it harder. And like, I wouldn't, why wouldn't the unstandard baskets even make it interesting? I'm not talking about the luck factor. I mean, if they really were, if you had to putt differently, that's not even a bad thing. But as it turns out, I think the baskets are very good. I think you putt at the chains. I think the sponsors want them there. I think I'm going to get bounce outs, but so is someone else at about the same rate as me. It's going to even out.
I'm of the opinion that that tweet from Drew Gibson is him begging the DGPT to make putting easier. Because we're asking these, and I get it. You're saying like just putt to the chains if you're learning how to putt, but for an experienced professional disc golfer, if a certain type of basket has a certain sweet spot where it catches, for me, that's the same thing as in traditional golf, a fast or a slow green. You need to know how to putt it. So you get to the green and you're like, okay, this one catches high right. As a professional disc golfer, I feel like maybe you should putt it high right. If you know that it's going to spit out if it's dead center, maybe don't putt it dead center. It's just another little quirk to the game that you're asking a pro disc golfer to adapt to.
Yeah, which basically, I mean, that kind of, I'm agreeing with that in theory, which is, you know, if the basket it was that much different, it would vary. But I would say, not related to the standardization of baskets, I would say that even if they catch better far upright, you should just aim for the middle, everybody. Because, like, let's be honest. I mean, when you hit the middle of the chains, your disc stays almost always. I mean, how many robberies, quote robberies out there actually kind of they hit low right and they bounced out, or they hit high,
right,
or they were coming in at an angle and they hit just right side and that's why they cut through. I mean, sometimes you hit flat, soft, dead center, it bounces out, but that's rare.
Well, that's what was happening over the weekend, and that's what sparked this tweet from Drew Gibson is several putts dead center on the pole, and it hit the pole and bounced back out. And that's what's kind of sparked this. And I was like, well, if you need to hit strong side a little bit, maybe aim towards a strong side if hitting the pole is making it bounce out, which is what you would rather be aiming at, I know. But if the basket's not catching it, why not, you know,
You're saying make the adjustment.
make the adjustment as a professional.
Make
yes.
the adjustment.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm one of those people that think we should be putting it like bullseye baskets, anyways, and not even full baskets.
Like,
I mean, the idea that
agree with that.
The idea that circle one
Marksmen.
putts are 90% plus for everyone.
Right. Yeah. On the professional level, obviously not. I don't want to see marksmen's out on my local course because
No. I'm talking about pro tour. No, other sports do this as well. I don't know anything about ball golf, but I've been told that the greens that the PGA pros putt on, if you put those at the local country club, people would quit the country club and join the other one. They're impossible. But I'll tell you what, one that I am familiar with is in bowling. You know, if you don't understand, if you're just a recreational bowler, you don't understand this, but the entire game of bowling is about reading oil patterns and then also reading the changes that take place with the oil patterns based on watching other people's shots, and then making adjustments based on your shot and their shot. It's all about oil patterns. That is what bowling is. It's not about aiming at the pins. Well, the oil patterns that they use on the PBA tour, I have experience. I bowled PBA lanes before, and they are the most god-awfully difficult. You know, this is a true story. So the last place I bowled when I was kind of taking it not super serious, but I was like a like a 215 average, not too shabby bowler. Certainly competent. And the person that ran the lanes, he had 5 PBA tours, and he was a professional. And he used to talk about how he had purchased the oil patterns from the PBA, because you have to actually purchase the patterns to program into the machines.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept saying, put those oil patterns out there for us. And he kept saying, no, you won't have fun. And the people at League were like, yeah, it'll be fun just to do it once. He says, no, it's not. And we finally convinced him to do it. So one night he goes out there and he puts in the PBA oil patterns. I went from 215 to 170. And it sucked. I couldn't figure it out. It was so hard. So there's a precedent in other sports,
Mm-hmm.
That there's a level that is that's there. And by the way, when you watch the Pro Bowling Tour, they still look like they know what they're doing.
Right.
By the way, just to give you an example too, he was about a 250 average bowler.
So not too shabby.
But that's with traditional house lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he averaged not striking twice a game.
That's insane.
So yeah, it's like that's not even fun for him. That reminds me of being 94% circle one.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I like about these baskets, the variability of these baskets. I mean, you step up on the tee and you could be say you practice with 0 wind, right? And now you step up on the tee and there's a 15 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour left to right. You're meant to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
So why are these pros not wanting to just be like, okay, well, this basket doesn't seem to catch great. Let's adjust.
I don't think they would have a problem with that if they were consistent and luck wasn't a factor.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew they had to hit a certain spot of the basket. I don't think you'd hear many people complaining. I think they would be totally fine with this is a high right side basket if it was consistent. It's the inconsistencies, or the perceived inconsistencies. So hitting dead center and bouncing straight back is an inconsistency. But you also have people, even really good pros, like I've seen some of the best pros in the world throw a putt that was like clearly not a ripoff. Maybe it was a putt that could have stayed, but it wasn't perfect.
Right.
And then they talk about getting ripped off, and it's like, you didn't.
Yeah.
If that had happened to anybody else, you would have rolled your eyes if they said it was a ripoff. But it's hard when it's us. We want to feel like that we got robbed.
I'm still gonna hold on to my opinion there. I know like Mach X's catch better or different than veterans or catch different than chain stars. If it's on the course, adjust to it. I don't know. I don't like the idea of standardizing a basket knowing that, oh, this is a high right side catcher or whatever. I just feel like on a pro level.
Well, we don't want putting easier. That's for sure.
Yeah,
we don't want it to be lucky. We don't want it lucky. Forget luck. As long as it's not lucky. But yeah, I love the bullseye baskets. Here's the problem though with the bullseye basket though. You can't use the current baskets. There are no current bullseyes that you could use on the tour. The thing about,
because they're non-standardized, like PGA approved standardized.
No. Because with different putting forms, your variance changes based on your form. If you're a push putter,
mm-hmm.
and your wrist and elbow are locked in place and your motion is up and down, you are much better at hitting your line than a spin putter who putts across this way. Right? It's a different plane of the throw. Spin putters miss right and left. Push putters miss high and low. If you all of a sudden tomorrow switch to bullseye baskets, the traditional bullseye baskets we see out there, just as tall but narrow,
mm-hmm.
the push putters would dominate and the spin putters would have to switch, which is not easy because that's not the way their bodies naturally move.
Right.
You would have to it would have to be narrower and
basically
shorter.
Playing can jam out there.
You'd have to make the whole target would have to change. You can't just change the chains. You can't just remove outer chains, for instance. It would be an unfair advantage to push putters.
Yeah, I like that philosophy.
No, it's for sure. When people tell me, like when they message me or whatever, and anytime they say they're struggling with their putts, I just say, well, how are you missing? And then as soon as they tell me, I can tell you what putting form they have. Oh, I keep missing low. Okay, push putter.
Right.
But
Well, speaking of spin putters, over the weekend at Portland Open, Eagle McMahon had to withdraw, and then later on posted on his Instagram. Uh, this right here is says it pains me to have to make the decision, but I'm withdrawing from the Portland Open. After yesterday's round, I re-injured my shoulder and will be taking time off for a few weeks. I already have an appointment with an orthopedic doctor to get a new evaluation on the state of my shoulder and formulate a new plan going forward. I'm all too familiar with this situation that has happened times before. It'll take 2 to 3 weeks for me to get back into playing form, so I'm hopefully back at DMC. Yeah. Also won't be hasty, don't want to make this post, but be transparent.
He's done it once.
Stuff. However, I mean, as much as this sucks for Eagle, it took him a while to come back to get back to playing form, and it was just at Beaver State where like Eagle is getting there again.
I think he started throwing forehands too early.
Yeah, my question is, what does this mean for the rest of Eagles season?
so I don't know all of the background on this, but I will tell you one thing, that I am positive Eagle's going to be fine. And the reason why is because he's seen an orthopedic surgeon.
Mhm.
And I don't know. Well, first off, I'm not going to pretend I'm a doctor, but there is, and I don't want to speak on, I'm not speaking on for Eagle by any stretch. I'm just more just of a general philosophy. But one of the reactions to all of the flaws in modern Western medicine, and there are many of them, right? Everything from overprescribing of opioids and medication for children, and I mean, like, go surgery as your first option. Like, there's so many flaws in it. But with all the flaws in Western medicine, that does not mean that these alternative medicine or alternative approaches all of a sudden become a better approach.
Right.
But that is the gut reaction to a lot of people. Well, the doctors prescribe too much, Oxycontin. Therefore, I'm going to go see a chiropractor for my joint issues in my shoulder. And it's like, well, wait a second. No, an orthopedic surgeon is way better than your chiropractor for that. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't bad orthopedic surgeons. Like the orthopedic surgeon that says, "Hey, I want to cut you open first." That's a bad doctor, right?
Right.
But a good orthopedic surgeon, and they've mastered sports medicine. My God, they've got sports medicine so down pat at this point. Like things that were career ending 20 years ago, they now treat in 6 weeks. A good orthopedic surgeon is going to do surgery last. They're going to get you in touch with the right physical therapist who specialize in this type of injury, and they're going to get you on a path. And there's a 99% chance that Eagle's going to be fine because he's following that path. And so, again, I'm not speaking on Eagle's behalf, and I'm not crapping on chiropractors and yoga instructors and nutritionalists and like all these other people. I'm not doing that either. I'm just saying orthopedic surgeons in the field of sports medicine, like, that's who you go see. If the Dodgers are paying, if the Dodgers have invested $100 million in a pitcher, they're not sending them to a chiropractor when you blow out your shoulder. You go to a sports orthopedic surgeon for a reason. And so when I see that Eagle's doing that, I go, oh, he'll be fine. I don't know what treatment he's sought out before. I have no idea, but he's fine. He's going to be fine. Positive. He's still young.
I know he started eating meat because he wanted the protein and stuff.
He was told by a doctor that he needed to start gearing away from the vegan diet because the lack of protein in his diet was causing issues for his muscle development at his current age.
Of course it does.
So from the beginning of this season, like last off season, he has been carnivore.
Not carnivore, just introducing more meat into his diet. Not full carnivore.
Omnivore Is that a more proper term?
I mean,
you,
yeah,
Luke?
when there's a carnivore diet, let's be specific.
But so Luke was right though. He is a carnivore. A carnivore does not exclude you from eating vegetables. It's not the carnivore diet.
Right.
But it's no. I
But
mean,
when we're talking
course.
vegan and then go to carnivore, there's both diets.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Fair?
meat's good for you. Sorry, I'm going to piss more people off. Meat's good for you.
What?
Oh, that was the crap I gave.
Oh, okay. Is DMC before or after European Open?
European Open is this weekend.
No.
Yeah, the European Open just happened.
Estonian Open just happened.
Oh, Estonia. Wait, what did I say? Did I say European? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Estonia Open. I don't know.
DMC is after the European Open, I believe.
Gotcha.
So are we not going to see Eagle at the European Open defending his major title?
That is
depends on
really
how far
good
away
question.
it is.
Everything got changed around in timeline this year, so I don't fully have it.
I will, if Eagle can't make it, I'll go defend it for him.
There you go. That sounds good.
Love to see it.
Actually, I would love to see it. Are you? Speaking of, we haven't even talked about this. What are you doing tournament wise?
Oh I am on my way to the Pro Forester in Croatia for the first event of the European Tour.
Heck yeah! Any word if Terry Miller is going to be there or not?
Have you heard? I have not heard.
Okay. Just wondering, because if there's usually if Terry Miller's there's disc golf guy coverage, and maybe just see Scott Stokely on coverage.
No, so there is. I don't know about that. I do know that they are. I am starting to do the following tournament in the Czech Republic. I am doing the pre-course tournament strategy, where we do a walkthrough of the course, and I'm going to be Jakob Simrad is who I chose to do this first one with.
Heck yeah.
But I'll be doing a course breakdown, and the idea is to explain basically what the strategies and options are in each hole and what the pros are doing and why they're doing it. The idea is to make the event more interesting for spectators at home. Number one, you can't see the course, but number two, if you're not a professional, you don't even know what they're thinking. So the walkthrough is not going to be my strategy for the hole. My walkthrough is going to be here's the different options the players are looking at, and here's the types of discs they're going to choose. And if they're choosing this disc, the reason why is because they're trying to take this or that into consideration. But I'm just going to try to educate people on what's going through the pros' heads or the range of possibilities on each hole to make it more interesting. But the secondary benefit to it is that everything I'm going to talk about is also strategy for the people watching to apply to their game on their course, because strategy, like it doesn't take a big leap to see, hey, I have a shot like that on my course that I have to consider or that screws me up. So I'm going to actually, I believe I'm going to start doing it every single tournament on the Pro Tour in Europe.
Oh, that'd be sweet. So is the European Pro Tour coverage limited by Disc Golf Pro Tour? Because I know that there was a set, like, was it 6 or 7 of the European Pro Tour events that will be?
Yeah, it's a certain number of the European Pro Tours worth Pro Tour points, and those are the ones that are going to be covered by the Disc Golf Pro Tour DGN.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it's not the European Pro Tour. This is very confusing. There's the PDGA Euro Tour, and then there's the European Pro Tour. And it's the PDGA Euro Tour that Disc Golf Network is covering. The European Pro Tour is I don't believe is being covered by them.
Disc Golf Stream. I just paid for the service this weekend.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and they also are making big moves as well. And actually, I'll tell you something that I feel absolutely crushed by is that, number one, I don't know the difference between the two tours as far as which one's better or which one you're supposed to play. All I know is that when I said I was going to Europe, both tours reached out to me, said they wanted me at their events, and they rolled out the red carpet and said, what can we do? How can we support your trip? We're so excited to have you. Tournament directors from both tours contacted me and said, like just about, I would say probably every single one probably all but like 2 of them contacted me direct and said, you got to come to my event. And I was not playing favorites. I simply laid out 6 months of what I thought was the most interesting tournaments on either of the 2 tours. I think based on also, the schedule, the route I was going to be taking, going to unique places, but I didn't consider the tour when choosing the events. And I had a mixture of both. Well, when I had to change because of my visa, my tour from 6 months to 3, I cut off a month at the beginning and 2 months at the end, and then withdrew from the events and set my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the schedule, and every single European Pro Tour event on my schedule got removed.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and so the appearance is that I chose one tour over the other, and I absolutely did not. And in fact, because my goal in life is to have new experiences, this almost means that next season I'm going to be playing almost all European Pro Tour events, probably, unless Disc Golf Network cuts me a fat check. But more than likely, like, I'm going to be at the other events too. So I just felt so bad because I support both of them, and I was not playing favorites, and if it looks like that, I'm like, it's not what happened. I hope the European Pro Tour is wildly successful. And you know what else I think? The fact that there's 2 tours competing, that's
good for European.
The best thing that could happen to European disc golf is to have both these tours out there trying to one up each other and trying to get to, they both want Paul at their events.
Isn't there like a Prodigy Pro Tour over in Europe too? Something like that?
Yeah, and the Swedish Pro Tour.
Yeah, it's so many.
Yeah, it's great. Well, Swedish is local to Sweden. The Prodigy is local to Finland, right? But Prodigy is behind the European Pro Tour. It's confusing to me. That's why I wasn't playing favorites. I didn't know what was what. I wanted to play the Swedish Open. I wanted to go to Krokol. I wanted to go to Croatia, and it just turned out they were all on one tour.
Before we get out of here, do you want to plug anything? Tell people where to find you?
Yeah,
what you got going on?
100%. There's a documentary out called Not Just a Shot. We didn't talk. Let's talk about it next week.
Okay.
I tried to plug it earlier and nobody listened to me.
I
tried. I was like, what about a shot? And everyone was kind of like,
oh. We'll dedicate some actual time to it next week.
Yeah, I'll make sure you guys are. I'll get you the code so you can watch it a bunch of times and memorize it.
If there's a trailer, send it. That we can throw it up while we're talking about it.
I've watched it.
You watched what?
Watched it?
The trailer.
Yeah. No, I'll get you guys everything. No, so notjustashot.com. It's not my documentary. I didn't produce it. I didn't direct it. I didn't do the music for it. I was part of the story being told. But Kendra Mueller, the filmmaker, did this, and he is a genius, and he did something very special. I think it's the best thing ever produced in the sport, content-wise. He spent 9 months of his life putting this thing together. I mean, he dedicated, like, I don't think anything has been done of this scope, of the time and effort and research and everything he put into this. I mean, it's really, really, really great. It has original music, even some CGI. It's unbelievable. So I couldn't recommend it stronger, notjustashot.com. And then if you want to get better at disc golf, go to scottstokely.net and take my 6-month online class. There's information there. But go watch the documentary. That's the plug. And again, I'm not tooting my own horn. It's not my documentary. Go watch this documentary. It is unbelievable.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Go watch the documentary and then come back next week and watch us talk about the documentary, talk about whatever else, maybe marriage again. Who knows? No,
probably not. I probably like how many guys are like listening to this while driving with their wives in the car, and I just totally.
How many divorces did we just cause?
I'm just saying, 2 years.
I mean, 2 years at a time. How many guys are out there in year 3 going, you know what, man? Yeah, I should.
I hit that 2-year marker today.
Yeah, perfect.
But
hey, there's more where that came from.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next week.
See ya.